so that the space between his fingers is what lets us out. Then from here, we come up over the top, we retract, and then from here, we get our own grip. Note that we're improving on our partner's grip. He was gripping the wrist. When we go, we deliberately go to the forefingers, okay? In the case where your partner actually controls your knuckles, here, you'll find that pummeling is not quite as easy. It can still be done, okay, where you're doing the same thing. You're taking your hand to the inside where your partner's thumb and middle finger meet. And then from here, you're circling here to the outside and then coming back through. Okay, so if you watch on this side, you'll see this is the gap that we're looking to exploit. So we turn our hand here so that my hand passes through this space. I'm going to give him my elbow and take my hand back towards me and then come back through. So if he wins this battle, we're going to circle, come up, and get our own grip. If he holds the wrist, same thing. We're going to circle, come back, and slide back down to control our partner's hands, all right? Now, when you're on your knees, you have the stability to do this. When you're standing, it's not exactly the same, but it's also less likely that your partner gets a grip on your hands in a robust way, okay? If he does get this grip, oftentimes simply showing your partner your elbow will break that grip. As he holds tight here, hold tight here. When I show him my elbow, it moves the hand out and away. If I need to, you can always come back here and double up your grips. Keep in mind that anytime you feel like you're trying one of these wrist pummel motions and it's not working, you have a second hand, okay? You can use it to intercept your partner's wrist and then from here, come back to a one-on-one grip, all right? If Chris takes a 2-on-1 grip here, it's a bit of a different matter. Keep in mind that the more you pull away, the easier it is for your partner to take advantage of your balance and knock you backwards. Okay, it's also relatively easy for Chris to tuck a leg and wrestle up, to come up off of this. So we want to avoid putting too much weight backwards when we're grip breaking. Okay, I don't want to sit here and play a game of tug of war. I'd much rather have you keeping your balance and your base here and then working to break grips from a situation where you're more evenly balanced, whether you have a square stance or a staggered stance, than one where you're constantly pulling back and away, a situation where your partner can take advantage of you. Now, if we are able to establish our own top hand position here, another good idea is for us to double up and take 2-on-1s. Normally, this is something that's taught from seated position, but you can do it from standing as well. If Chris takes a grip here and we strip, here's a 2-on-1. This is going to allow us to move our partner's arm to the outside, create a bit of an angle, and there's a space for us to step into. Okay. So once we're here, we're looking for top hand position. Chris has top hand position. That's fine. I'll reclaim it. Then we're going to switch to a 2-on-1. You can double up at your partner's wrist. This is one good method. You can take an elbow 2-on-1. This is another good method. Elbows are down, head down, and we're going to talk about posture in a moment. Then from here, we can move our partner's arm around, create space, and start to drop and step to the inside. When you're working grips, it's very important that you, initially, when you're first learning to do this, you take time with a partner in a less dynamic situation, like I had demonstrated initially on my knees, but you could even be seated with a partner so that you can understand how your grips are supposed to be working, and you can kind of keep your mind focused on one single area. Sometimes if you try to learn grip fighting in the course of randori or sparring, it's one of those things that's too subtle for you to figure out in the moment. So sometimes what we'll do is we'll just sit here and I'll play a little game here where Chris wants to take top hand position, go ahead, and I'm looking to break grips and take top hand position. He wants to regain it, go ahead and we can play a little bit here. I'm looking to take top hand position, he's looking to strip. So we get a more controlled method here of playing in this narrow shoot. So you do need to be able to grip fight with your partner. Your ultimate goal is to take top hand position. If you take top hand position, great. If you can double up your grips either down here at your partner's wrist or at an elbow 2-on-1, that's going to be another huge advantage for you. If your partner takes their own top hand position, you need to have the skill to pummel to get back to a dominant position here and start to use either one hand, as I just showed, or using two hands here to start to strip your partner's grips and clear them out. When you do this, do it from a static position so that you're not trying to manage your balance, manage your movement, manage your angle, manage your partner's responses. Once you gain a good sense of how to deal with grips from your gaining top hand position and working from here, you're going to feel that a lot of your work closing the gap from standing against a seated person is going to be much, much easier. We're going to talk about leg pommeling too. And when your partner is gripping your legs, If Chris is reaching down here, using his hands to grip my legs, I also won't allow that. And those grips are oftentimes not quite as complex as gripping at the hands. If Chris is reaching forward here with his hand here, it's usually a matter of simply plucking the grip and lifting it off. If he's grabbing down by the heel with his hand, oftentimes we're going to focus, instead of looking to break the grip between our partner's thumb and finger, we'll simply take the foot out and away in the direction of the open hand. And then from here, we'll come back looking to get our positions, creating posts, stepping to the inside, and starting to do our work. So in a nutshell, this is grip work. It's a skill that you want to develop if you want to have good if you want to have good guard passing. Good hand fighting and good guard passing go hand in hand. Another essential skill to learn and to understand is gaining the underhook when you are in this mid-range position. The difference between an underhook and an overhook should be clear, but I'll demonstrate anyway. If we're in a situation where we have a knee cut in progress, okay, this kind of split squat position. If Chris has an underhook, his arm is under mine. Okay. If I have an underhook, mine is under his. Now, that's easy enough to understand, but what's really critical is when you're in this situation where you're working from either cross or straight shins, if you are on the top and you can get a meaningful underhook, it's going to make a huge difference when it comes to passing your partner's guard. Why? Because pinning your partner's hips is great. Okay, it's really very important. And a lot of the leg work that we'll be talking about has to do with pinning one or both of our partner's hips to the floor. But given a choice between passing and controlling your partner's hips and passing and controlling your partner's shoulders, keeping those pinned to the floor, this is always better. It's always better to pin your partner's shoulders to the mat than it is to pin your partner's hips. And fundamentally, this is actually at the core of tripod passing. The idea is, and also chest-to-chest half guard passing and chest-to-chest half butterfly passing. If you can pin your partner's shoulders and keep them on the mat, essentially what you're doing is you've got your partner into a posture that looks a hell of a lot like side control and mount. It looks a lot less like a guard. So this is the main reason that the underhook is so important. It's such a critical element that you really have to be on the lookout for it throughout all of the different ranges and throughout all of the different chains of guard passing that you'll perform. Because if you can get to a meaningful underhook and you can use that to put your partner's shoulder on the floor, you're going to reduce his mobility. You're going to reduce his ability to push and create space, and you're going to crowd him in such a way that it makes improved, upgraded grips even easier to gain. And then from here, you'll find that clearing your legs is a much easier job. So when we're looking for the underhook, a few things about this. Sometimes it's going to be obvious. Sometimes you'll be able to see your partner posting and the elbow will be away from the body. And all that's required is for you to take your arm through and underneath. Other times your partner is going to have a shield. They're going to have their elbow and knee connected. They're going to be playing very tightly with their arm. And so the job of gaining the underhook is going to be a bit more challenging. Your job is to simply be aware of the underhook, looking for it, opportunities to gain it, and then ultimately, when it comes to skills, clearing out your partner's frame so that you can get it. Here are a couple of good ways. So if we ever feel like our partner has a cross shoulder post here, sometimes, depending, so you kind of put a little pressure here. Yeah. If Chris is pushing into me here, I can gain the underhook by simply taking his elbow and bringing it below my body. Once we get to here, I can move my chest forward and take my hand and hold his shoulder. Now, it's not much, but from this position, I can retreat slightly and dig my shoulder through. And now here we are in a very tight, close underhook. Once we get here, we can look to lock our hands. Another situation is one where Chris is posted here and I feel like I can't bring his arm down. In a situation like this, I can often posture and clear it out to the side. So as Chris pushes down and I lean in and he pushes back, this is a good opportunity to move his arm out to the side. Now from here, we drop our elbow down to the floor and we gain our underhook. Once we're here, we can lock our hands and begin the action passing. When we're working here from this kind of headquarters type position, when Chris is posting and pushing, oftentimes we don't have to worry too much about digging an underhook. We simply have to take our hand and place it on the floor. You can place your fist on the mat. You can place your hand on the mat. We can have underhooks on the near side or the far side. But once we gain this underhook, from this position, working our body forward and pinning our partner's shoulder is going to make our job a lot easier. And then as we'll see when we get in the technical portion, as Chris goes to lift me here, it makes my job much easier. Whether we choose to float across our partner's legs or use knee cuts, looking for the underhook is really critical. If you're not aware of the primacy of the underhook and you're on the bottom, you're going to find that someone who is able to zoom in on that as a critical feature will be a nightmare to deal with. Our job is to make sure that you're that nightmare. You have when you're looking at your partner's upper body, you're constantly doing an assessment of whether you can get an underhook or not. Can you pull the arm down? Can you clear it to the outside? Can you take advantage of an opportunity where your partner's posting? Can you simply place a hand on the floor and then work your way up into the underhook? Any of these tools, any of these approaches is going to let you get an underhook. Once you get the underhook, your only job is to pin your partner's shoulder. If you can do that, you're going to be passing the guard of someone who's mostly flat. And that job is a lot easier than passing the guard of someone who is turned on their side, starting to get elbow and knee connection. And that ultimately is going to be the goal. So we've talked about the importance of working grips. We've talked about the importance of underhooks. Now let's talk about how important it is to recognize the difference between concave and convex posture so that you, first of all, you know the difference. And then that understanding that difference will allow you to know which one you're supposed to use. And it will make a lot more sense once we go into the techniques that we're about to cover. Concave posture is a situation where our body is rounded. Okay. So in yoga, people will do this kind of cat-cow position. So a rounded body here is concave. A convex position is one where our chest is pushed forward and oftentimes our shoulders are pulled back. There are going to be times when you're passing when it's most appropriate to have a concave body, okay, a rounded body. There'll be other times where it's most appropriate for you to have a convex body. So what are some examples of this? Well, often when we initially enter into a knee cut, if my body is too high up and I present a convex body initially to my partner, okay, good posture, but chest push forward, hips push forward, there's nothing stopping Chris from bringing a knee shield across. And if I just push a straight body into the knee shield here, it doesn't do much good. On the other hand, if we adopt a concave body posture from the beginning and we round our body, we don't have our knee on the floor, but my body is rounded here. Even if Chris is able to get his knee to the inside, he doesn't have quite the same purchase. And now from this position, we can bring our head down, take our elbow and forearm to the inside, and our body can be rounded so that when he goes to recover his knee shield from here, he finds that our upper body, our shoulders, we occupy the space between his knees. So this is an example of when concave body posture would be a good idea here. Convex body posture works much better from situations when we're floating. When we're doing a float pass or we're using any sort of leg pummeling, it's often a good idea for us to have this hips forward.